Hello and welcome to another chess video. We're going to look at another game from the Tata Steel Chess Masters. I am myself, FIDE Master Ingvar Johansson, and I am from Iceland. Welcome to my channel, and we're going to look at a game between Magnus Carlsen, the current world champion, and Richard Rapport. Magnus, before this round, was in a group of 5 total players that were leading before this round. And his opponent, talented Hungarian, who seems to have more potential in many ways. They have only faced each other, I believe, one other time, and that was in the same tournament 2 years ago, in the same round. And in that game, Richard Rapport managed to beat the world champion. But what will happen today? Let's have a look. Carlsen with the white pieces. He opens with pawn to e4. And we have the Sicilian defense. Main line, knight f3, e6, and the open Sicilian d4. So after this, we have knight c6, knight c3, and queen to c7. And this is the so-called Taimanov Sicilian. Now the main moves are bishop e3 and bishop e2, but Carlsen goes with g3. Sort of staying true to style, not really always going for the absolute main lines. So seems like he might have had some ideas in this g3 system. a6, most often played in this line, a useful move, taking out the b5 square from a white knight. Bishop g2, black gets on with development, white castles. d6, d6 and bishop e7 are the most common moves, but after d6, Carlsen decides to take on c6. Now this forces black to take with the pawn, because if you take with the queen, I do have the move e5. And with the many white pieces pointing at the d5 square, this move would lose material. So pawn takes e6 is forced. And now knight a4. And this move looks a bit curious. We are taught not to put our knights on the rim, right? But this knight might be able to jump into b6 in some cases. Not very likely. But the main idea of this knight a4 move is to make way for the pawn to come to c4. And yeah, white will get a pawn structure very similar to what we might see in so-called Maroczy bind structures. Rook b8 is played here by Rapport. And you have to do this to clear the rook out of this diagonal, because black wants to play c5. After white plays the intended c4, you would probably go ahead and play c5 if allowed. So rook b8 is played to clear this diagonal, because otherwise white would have had now the move e5. Okay, b3 now by Carlsen. He wants to put the bishop on this diagonal, which looks very useful. And actually this position is starting to look very comfortable for white. Both bishops are free and zeroed. He has nice control of the center. And black really doesn't have, a really useful break, it seems. The only real pawn break is to play d5, but that is firmly under control. So black first castles, and now we have queen e1. The first new move of the game, actually. Previously f4 had been played. That was a game between Morozevich and Siedler, played in 2006. Which Morozevich won with the white pieces. Now knight d7 by Rapport, both eyeing the e5 square and perhaps wanting to play bishop f6 at some stage. Rook d1, bishop comes to b7, and now queen to c3. Okay, Rapport prevents the mate by going bishop to f6, and now queen to d2. Here we have a little repetition dance. We very often see this, especially in games at the highest level. It goes bishop is e7, and instead of playing a move, Carlsen now repeats, just seeing if Rapport wants to play something else, but he plays bishop to f6. And now if Carlsen wants to continue the game, he has to find another move. And of course, he did that and played pawn to f4. So at this stage, it's pretty clear that white would like to attack on the king side. So how he does that? Well, we do have a very nice bishop here, and the move pawn to f4 indicates that at some stage White wants to play f5 and use the f file to increase the pressure on the king side. So Black plays e5 here first to blunt the diagonal. But now White plays bishop to c3. I thought knight c3, it looks like we want to improve this piece, so I'm not sure why Carlsen didn't go directly knight c3. But it seems like he wants to prevent Black from putting a rook on d8, just to tie this bishop down to this pawn perhaps. So bishop a3, and now we're going to be able to put this bishop here, which he does here next move, bishop to a5. Knight to queen b7, knight to c3. So perhaps this is a very advanced way of both preventing counterplay. Now Black doesn't have the typical a5, a4, which could be in some positions a typical minority attack. So White puts a stop to that. And also you can't move this bishop, you can't trade it off really here because of this pawn on d6. So yeah, it's hard for Black to really do much. He took on f4 here, played rook f to e8. But now a very nice breakthrough by Carlsen. He uses the fact that he has a nice battery here on the d file, especially lining up against this knight, and he plays e5. So Black of course can't take, because we would probably just take here and then take on d7, winning a piece. So Black takes on g2 here. Queen takes, and now yeah, we maintain this pin, and the pin means that if Black takes here, we got pressure on this, and the pawn can't move. Again, the knight on d7 will be lost, so this pawn is a big problem. Therefore, Black takes on e5 in this position, because now at least the queen is protecting this. And if White trades, then the rook would simply capture on b7 and still protect the knight. But this gives White's pieces a lot of freedom, and he now plays knight to d5. After e4, trying to keep some lines closed, we have bishop to c3. And yeah, White is starting to point a lot of things over to the king side. g7 is under attack, f6 is played, but now simple king h1, and the rook is coming over. So even though White is down a pawn here, he is standing much better and starting to direct all his forces to the king side, and it will be very hard for Black to defend here. Now knight to e3. First of all, stopping this pawn in its tracks, not allowing a queen trade if the pawn were to move. But also there's a very advanced idea after queen c6. Carlsen played rook to d5. And he wants to swing this rook over to the king side. Very unusual rook lift, but very effective. To queen e6, the rook swings over. Queen f7. And now Carlsen doubles on the h file. And now Black has to pick his poison. Do you want to play h6, which is like really ugly? Or I can play f5, put the rook on g6. He can actually do a number of things, but h6 is very ugly. So Black went with g6. At least the rook has to move. But now Carlsen plays f5. g5 is out of the question because we will simply take. There's a pin here on the pawn. So Rapport tries to keep diagonal close with knight to e5, but now the knight comes back to the d5 square, and Carlsen is actually ready for the final assault. And here he played a sequence of forced moves that, forced resignation. He took on g6. You don't have a choice here, you have to take with the knight. Now bishop takes f6, check. And again, you are more or less forced to take this. King g8, you can't really play that. Worst case scenario, I can probably just win your queen. There might be something better, but this is just from the top of my head. Should be enough for a win. And if h takes, of course, is mate on h8. So after bishop takes f6, Black more or less has to take. But the next move, forced resignation. Can you find Carlsen's final move? Very nice move, which yeah, just liquidates to a 1 ending. Assuming you paused, found the move, and we came back. The winning move is, of course, takes 8-7, and Richard Rapport resigned. Nothing to be done here. The only move is to take on 8-7, but of course, queen takes, king takes, knight takes f6, yet another check. The king has to move, keep an eye on the knight. And knight takes e8, check. White is out the exchange and a pawn. And black even has weak pawns, so there's nothing to play for or fight for here. And therefore, after rook takes 8-7, Rapport resigned. So a very nice win by Carlsen. And yeah, he is now leading, but Anand has joined him after yeah, a run of very good results. Don't have time for another video today, but we have a free day tomorrow. And I think I might catch up with some games by Anand, to be fair, because he has been, well, after some quiet draws, he's catching up the leaderboard with some nice wins. So we'll have a look at that. Yeah, that's it for this video. If you haven't subscribed, there's a subscribe button down there, and another video is going to be up there. If you want to see more games from this tournament, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.